I think it was one of the hardest times in my life. It was a moment of loss, and I really remember it well. One of the things that I do remember was my father groaning. It was, if you've ever heard a man groan in grief for something that's happened, you kind of never forget it. And that the memory whispers of that just still are there, and it just grief I think clings on to you, doesn't it? Have you ever found that? And I heard Rob Bell say once, or just recently, that a grief is the passing through of what was. It's a full body affair. Now, I've rolled that sentence around in my brain for quite a while now, and I think what he's talking about is it takes time, and it's passing through you and your consciousness about what has happened. And Ecclesiastes says that there is a time to cry, a time to laugh, and a time to dance. And grief is that passing through. And I hope you don't mind, but I think it's kind of like the digestive system, right? There's a passing through of what was hoped for. It could be a hope of a child. It could be a hope of a relationship. It could be the loss of a relationship that you hoped for. It could be a financial security. It could be a safe home to live in, a dream that you once had, a physical wellness that you've just lost, or an opportunity that's just gone and it's lost. And there'll always be loss, and at times it'll feel really, really raw. That passing through of what you'd hoped for, passing through your whole body, your whole consciousness. And look, sorry about the imagery, but it is like passing through the body. And for some people, it seems like they take laxatives, and it's sort of like, I'm all right, I'm fine, and passes through really quickly. But it's kind of like diarrhea. But it's just can be too much, too quick. And there's a lot of ungrieved grief, and for some other people, well, it seems to be constipated in them, and that makes them unwell, and they need someone to actually help them to talk it through, or they need to actually realise that actually this grief thing is a process. It's not linear. It's not. It's a process. It's jumbled. It's messy, and it's kind of like it's a moving from one stage to another, and one of the things I was thinking about this, how at dance, at music festivals, there's different stages, and so you might have the station for country music, you might have the station for rock, you might have all these different stages that you go to, and it's a bit like that with grief. I think that there are various stages. Elisabeth Kübler-Ross, who's a pioneer in talking about grief, she said there's 5 stages of denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And I don't think they're linear stages where you must move from one to another, but there's actually various stages, and you can jump from one stage to the other and come back to it, and you have to sort of go through that sort of process of non-linear. I like to think quite often about a metaphor of the garden, and how I used to work in this beautiful garden, and it was full of roses, and there was this big concrete strong wall, and I had a key. I could get in through there, and you'd walk along the outside and you could smell the roses on the other side, but you could only access them if you had the key. All right, but you knew they were there, but you were prohibited from getting in. And because I had the key, I could get in, and that was a few years ago. But just the other day, I was driving past that garden, and I looked out, and there was an area where I'd spent a lot of time working on getting rid of weeds, and I'd planted some beautiful plants, and I looked across just from the road, and I could see that it was covered in weeds, and particularly weeds that I'd worked really, really hard to try and get rid of so that the other plants could grow. It was full of weeds. There was grief. There was sadness that no one was actually caring for that particular area of the garden anymore. And it's a sadness. And I look back at another garden often. I look back at the perfect garden, at the Garden of Eden, where there were no weeds. What weeds there were was they weren't weeds, but there was complete and utter perfection in everything. There was no grief, there was no sadness. Everything was completely and utterly perfect. And I think that when we grieve, there's something within us which we could call an archetype, which is kind of like something that is passed on from all generations, right from Garden of Eden sort of thing, where we long for that kind of connection, where there is no grief. And so it touches back to that real desire that we had way back then. You can read more about archetypes if you come over and read it in the blog. There's a link down below in the show notes. But I believe we have this deep longing for a relational connection, a desire to be known, loved and held, and a place that we can be fully seen and not experience anything but wonder and delight. And it's still deep within us, deep within our DNA. But now, just like Adam and Eve, we're outside of the garden and we are in this kind of transient zone waiting to go to new heavens, a new earth, which is going to be exciting. So what do we do now? Well, we have wafts of this delight. And if you're looking out at Kawakawa Bay at the moment, I'll just stand back. This is where I live. And there are wafts of delight here, aren't there? It is beautiful. And despite busy traffic going past, it is still a tranquil place. And I sense a little bit of Eden's delight. And so we sort of go to these places for refreshment. And in our grief, we need to recognize that, okay, we are not in Eden anymore, but we still can taste some of it. And we also can reflect on various passages of Scripture that can help us in our times of grief. And over in the blog post, I have some that you can read. Now look, this grief thing, various stages, it's a slow dance that I think needs to be done with others in a very gentle and caring sort of way. So we slow dance our way through it all, and we offer something of what we know of Eden's delight to those who are broken. Hey, subscribe to the channel, share it with somebody else. Please leave a comment. That really helps me to know what's happening, how this is affecting you. And we'll see you next time, and may you find some place of Eden delight.